Hi, welcome to Church at 5 online. It's great to be with you for another week. This week we've got some great things lined up. We've got worship together and we will be hearing from Matthew Herel for part 2 of his part 4 series about race and privilege and really relevant topics and talking about what Jesus says about these things. So stay with us for that. I was thinking this week about the uniqueness of having church online, and for many of us, we miss church in person, and that's okay. That's okay to miss church. But there's something beautiful about the flexibility of having online church and the accessibility. And so I was thinking this week, we really want to welcome you, whether this is your first time or whether you've been with us since the beginning of lockdown. But for those of you that have been with us, I want to challenge you that next week, LondonLive at 5 p.m. online, think about who you can share this church link with and we can come and enjoy worship and a message together. So before we get into worship, I just want to read a passage from scripture. It says, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace. And be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom, and as you sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs with gratitude in your hearts to God. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to the God the Father through him." So will you join us with worship?
Hey there, London Live Church family. As some of you may know me, my name is Matthew Herel. I'm a pastor. I work here in the south of England, the South England Conference. And I just wanted to introduce a series of sermons that I'm sharing with you during this time of online church, of digital church. There's a series that I shared and created for my own church, Acts Church. And it's basically a 4-part series looking at how Jesus views things like race and privilege and being an ally and what these things mean. And these are really current and relevant ideas currently in the world that we find ourselves living in. So I hope these are ideas and concepts that are of value to you. I hope they challenge you in positive ways and help you to think and see both the world and the Bible and Jesus' ministry in a different way, like you never saw it before. And I hope these can encourage all of us to have even a little bit of growth, and we can continue the work that we're trying to do to extend the rollout of the kingdom of heaven. So I hope you're blessed. Looking forward to worshiping with you in person soon as lockdown allows us. But in the meantime, stay safe, and I hope these are a blessing to you.
I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemy. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody.
There is a question that you get asked a lot when you're British but not English. So when you're British according to your passport, according to your birth certificate, according to your driver's license, according to your Oyster card and your library card and any other documents and stuff that you have, but you are not of European descent. And that question is, where are you from? Some of you maybe even knew what the question was going to be before I asked it. Where are you from? And it sounds like quite a harmless question, and in a lot of ways it is. There's very rarely, very, very rarely any malicious intent behind it, but this question can often carry some baggage with it that sometimes the people asking it can be unaware of. So it's like, where are you from? Well, I'm from Ilford. No. Where are you really from? I'm really from Ilford. I'm not making it up. No. I mean, where's your mum from? Oh, I see. She's from Hackney. So this is my way of responding to these questions these days. It's me being silly. I know exactly what this question really means. To the person asking the question, it really means, what's your heritage? But unbeknown to the person asking the question, to the person being asked the question, it kind of can tacitly also include a statement, even a declaration that they don't really realize that they're making. You are not from here. Now, I don't want to traumatize anyone, or I don't want anyone going away horrified now thinking, oh my gosh, I asked one of my friends, where are you from? Like, it's cool. It's okay to be curious about where somebody is from. We're naturally curious animals. That's not a bad thing. But I do want to recommend, it doesn't need to be the first question that we ever ask somebody. And I say that, I hope Kira, my wife, doesn't mind me sharing, like, when I'm with her sometimes, or she tells me, she'll just go into a shop and someone doesn't know her, the first thing they'll say to her, where are you from? Like, it doesn't need to be the first thing that you ever ask somebody. It doesn't even really need to crop up in the first conversation that you're having with somebody that you're meeting for the first time, because the reality is this simple question, question with no bad intentions, this simple question can reinforce a narrative that many people are already walking in, that they are being seen as other. And so I sometimes wonder to myself if Jesus was asked this question. You see, Jesus was born in the little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. But not long after Jesus was born, not long after his birth, his life was in danger. And so God the Father, according to the Gospel of Matthew's account, God the Father appeared to Joseph, his earthly father, in a dream and said to Joseph, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you. And so that the family literally had to pick up sticks and they had to shift and move and settle in Egypt. And when they got to Egypt, whether they were considered as migrants and refugees or whether they were considered as expats, I guess really that depends on perspective. But this young family, they found themselves attempting to settle into a new land for an indeterminate period of time. And so we don't know exactly how long Jesus and his family spent in Egypt. We're not told that. But Jesus is growing up in a country that he and his family are not native to. And so Jesus carries with him the baggage of being a migrant, the baggage of being seen as different and as other, even though for all intents and purposes, this is literally all that you know. And so I wonder about this unspecified period in Jesus's life. I sometimes ask myself, if he were old enough to talk to and to converse and play with children his own age, would he have been asked the question, where are you from? Where are you from, Jesus? Me? Oh, I'm from around the corner. We live just off Nefertiti Avenue, just over by the Osiris Marketplace. No, where are you really from, Jesus? I'm really from there. You can come to my house. My mum Mary, she's great. Open door policy. Come for dinner. No, 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 no. I mean, you're clearly not from here. So where are you from? Where are your parents from? Oh, I see. Jesus may have known that his mother was originally from a village called Nazareth in the district of Galilee in Israel, but he wouldn't yet have known that his father, his real father, was from somewhere a bit further afield, and that you could pass through Earth's atmosphere and you could pass through the stars in the sky and you're still not really that much closer to where he lives. And so during Jesus's childhood, and again, we're not exactly sure what ages these things took place, but during Jesus's childhood, Joseph, his earthly father, receives another dream from God. Take the family and relocate to Israel. And so the family, they now move to the district of Galilee and they settle in a village called Nazareth, which is where Mary, Jesus' mother, is originally from. And so what we discover is that before his 12th birthday, before Jesus is 12 years old, he's lived in 3 different places. And so the first of those places was Bethlehem, the place where he was born. Bethlehem, known as the city of David, the greatest king in Israel's history. Although by the time that Jesus was born, it was likely no more than a village that had a little bit of prestige by association. And so this was the place that Jesus spent the least amount of time. And then the second place that he lived was Egypt. And specifically where in Egypt, we don't know. Now, the nation of Israel had a little bit of a checkered past with Egypt, because Egypt was the country that had held the nation of Israel in captivity as slaves right at the beginning of Israel's history. And then in their more recent history, Egypt had failed to protect Israel in a political alliance that they'd gone into, and they failed to protect them from the invading army of Babylon. And so Egypt, in the minds of some people from Israel, it no doubt held memories of oppression and broken promises. Oh, so you grew up in Egypt, yeah, Jesus? Okay. And then there's the third and final place, Nazareth. Now, Nazareth is a small village in the district of Galilee with somewhere between 200 and 500 inhabitants. This is a small village. There's just literally one spring to provide water for all of these people. Nazareth was out of the mainstream, outside of the mainstream of Jewish life. It was some 70 miles away from Jerusalem, the capital city. And in modern times, archaeologists, when they've found the original site of Nazareth and they've done their excavations, archaeologists have found no signs of any roof tiles, no signs of any mosaics, no signs of any plastered floors. These are the findings typically associated with some degree of luxury for the time. Nazareth, this was a simple peasant village with a lack of culture. It had what has been referred to as an unpolished dialect, which is basically like a nice way of saying that people from Nazareth spoke a bit funny. People who had heard of Nazareth didn't think too highly of Nazareth. And this was the place that Jesus would call home. And so in the Gospel of John, and the Gospels are the 4 biographical accounts of Jesus' public life. In the Gospel of John, our author, he drops us in the story right at the beginning of Jesus' ministry. John doesn't bother with any of the birth narrative in some of the other Gospels. There's no sign of labour. There's no sign of any wise men or any shepherds. John just wants to get straight down to brass tacks. He wants to get straight to Jesus' mission to declare that God wants everyone to be saved. And so in the first chapter of John, we find Jesus is starting to assemble a small team from among the many different disciples that are beginning to follow him. And so Jesus is trying to create this small team of disciples that would be known as the 12. And so first of all, a man named Andrew and his brother Simon Peter are recruited. And then Jesus travels to Galilee. This is the district that he's from. And this is where we pick up the story. And I want to share an extract from John chapter 4 with you, and it reads as follows. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him about whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus, son of Joseph from Nazareth." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." When Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, he said of him, "Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael asked him, "Where did you get to know me?" Jesus answered, "I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you." Nathanael replied, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus answered, "Do you believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than these." So Jesus has travelled to Galilee and he comes across Philip. And Jesus invites Philip to come and to join his team, to come and join the new team that he's trying to build. And Philip accepts the invitation. And Philip then goes and finds his friend Nathanael. And Nathanael was chilling. Maybe he's even just eating a spot of lunch. And Philip is like super excited. He's super gassed at what has happened to him. And so he rushes and he tells Nathanael, "We found the guy. We found the one." "Which one?" "We found the one that we've been waiting for, the one that Moses wrote about, the one that the prophets predicted was going to come. We found him." "What, seriously? Wow, I mean, this is major news." And so Nathanael maybe puts his food down and he stands up and he asks, "Who is he?" "His name is Jesus, son of Joseph, from Nazareth." "Oh." Nathanael sits back down and probably picks his food back up. "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip simply says, "Come and see." And so Philip brings Nathanael to Jesus, and when Jesus sees Nathanael, he says to him, "Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." In this interaction between Philip and Nathanael and Jesus, Nathanael does something that most of us do or have done without even realizing. And it's something that is as subtle as it is dangerous. And that's actually what makes it so insidious. You see, Philip says to Nathanael, "Jesus is from Nazareth." And Nathanael then subconsciously thinks in his mind, "I know Nazareth, so I know the people from Nazareth. All people from Nazareth are the same, so I'm not interested." So as Nathanael gets up and heads to meet Jesus, and as he sees Jesus for the first time, he isn't seeing Jesus as a blank canvas. He is seeing Jesus as a whole host of negative expectations. So before Jesus has done anything or even said anything, he already has a negative balance in Nathanael's eyes. We reflected a little bit last week on a few of the incidents that are currently still very much in the public consciousness. Indefensible and unconscionable acts of violence against people like George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, simply because of their race. But what I would really like us to understand today is that the truest essence, the most distilled essence of racism isn't acts of violence. It isn't using racial slurs. It isn't even in hating other people. The true essence of racism is treating individuals like they are simply part of a monolith, viewing everybody from a particular group like they are the same. This is what really informs unconscious bias. This is what informs being afraid of somebody walking behind you who isn't actually posing you any threat. This is what informs being surprised when someone that you've never met before can speak well and can hold an intelligent conversation. Treating everybody from a particular place and from a particular space or from a particular race like they are all the same. So if a black person presents as a certain way, I now have it in my head that all black people are like this. If a white person presents in a particular way, I now work on the basis that all white people are like this. So I was once threatened by a black person, so I now find all black people threatening. I was once spoken down to by a white person, so I now find all white people patronizing. In the recesses of my mind, I'm going to consider everybody from this particular group like they are all the same. And so as Nathanael approaches Jesus, and it's worth noting here that Nathanael and Jesus have the same ethnic heritage. So this isn't a phenomenon that is exclusive to race. But as Nathanael approaches Jesus, he is simply seeing Jesus as being part of a monolith. Without even thinking about it, he is attaching all of the baggage of a particular entire community of people onto one individual's back. Well, I mean, one time I met a Nazarene and they did this. My auntie was once mugged by somebody from Nazareth. My friend used to date a girl from Nazareth. She was horrible. I mean, my cousin says that Nazarenes aren't as intelligent as other people. So when Nathanael sees Jesus, he doesn't just see Jesus. He sees Jesus carrying an entire village, an entire community, an entire conglomeration of people like enmeshed together on his shoulders. Here is Nazareth. And that is too heavy a burden for any one person to ever have to carry. I was speaking with a friend this week, and we laughed as we realised that our mums had both, independently of each other, our mums had both tried to teach us and instill within us the same principle. And this is a principle that I suspect some of you and many of my peers in various ways also had instilled in them. That when you go outside of this house, you represent black people. In the things that you say, in your actions, in your behaviour, you represent black people. And this is probably a sentiment that many other minorities are also familiar with. You can no doubt substitute black for any minority. And I really understand why our parents felt that they should tell us this, because they understood perception. They understood that in the world that we live in, people will make you a representative of everybody. And so in no way am I criticising our parents. But it's too heavy a burden. It's too heavy to carry a whole race of people on your back all the time. It's too heavy. No one should have to do that. We can maybe just about carry ourselves on our own two legs. And maybe we also should or could carry our family's reputation on our backs. But no one person, be they white, black, Asian, no one person should have to carry a whole ethnicity's reputation on their back. It's not fair. If you come across someone who is a fool, that is a situation exclusive to them. it does not mean that everybody within the collective is a fool. If a person chooses to be threatening, that's because of their own life choices. It does not make everybody else a threat. Now, I do understand, believe me, I genuinely understand that these are hugely complex issues because, yes, there are such things as cultural norms which do influence the individuals within a particular culture. But I believe today, maybe more than ever, that Jesus is calling us to see the individual before we see the culture that they are immersed in. Jesus is calling us to see the individual without the baggage of an entire community strapped to their back. To circumvent what any biases in the back of our minds are telling us based on our experiences with other people, and to allow the person in front of us to define themselves. When Nathanael sees Jesus, he doesn't just see Jesus. He sees every negative thing that he has ever seen and heard about an entire village strapped onto Jesus's back. Nazareth? Can anything good come out of Nazareth? But when Jesus sees Nathanael, something very different takes place. Jesus says this: "Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. If we reflect on this statement, the first thing that Jesus says to Nathanael, I think that our eyes will naturally be drawn to what seem like the most significant parts, the most significant words in this sentence. Words like truly. Jesus is speaking with honesty. He's speaking from the heart. Or words like Israelite. This is his nationality, his heritage. This is his culture. Or phrases like no deceit. This is his character and his disposition. But I don't think that these represent the most significant elements of Jesus's declaration, of the first thing that Jesus ever says to Nathanael. I think that the most important part of the sentence is actually the least important part of the sentence. An. The word an is an indefinite article. It's the equivalent of saying a, but it gets amended to an because it precedes a vowel. Quick grammar. And the reason an is so important in this sentence is because an always refers to a singular object, a singular thing, or a singular person. So when Nathanael sees Jesus for the first time, he sees a whole village. Here is Nazareth. But when Jesus sees Nathanael for the first time, he says, here is one. Singular. Unique. Individual. Not a whole village, just Nathanael. Not a whole community, just Nathanael. Not an entire culture, it's just Nathanael. Not a whole nation of people, not a whole race of people, not the baggage from everything I've ever known that anyone who looks like you has ever said, done, or been. Just Nathanael. And it's really funny, because if you look at Nathanael's response to Jesus saying this, he says this: "Where did you get to know me?" Shock. You can literally see like the shock jumping off the page. Where did you get to know me? You've identified me as an individual. Not Israel, but one Israelite. Not the baggage of Israel, just me. Not the corporate identity of Israel, just me. Not every bad thing that anyone from Israel has ever done, just me. You're looking at me and you see me. It's as if Nathaniel expects everybody to view the world the way that he views the world. So he's surprised to encounter a new way of seeing people. Where did you come to know me? And Jesus says, I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you. I'm acknowledging that you're a unique individual. And so I took the time to get to know you as an individual before making a call on who you are and what you're about. I did my own due diligence. I didn't want to risk relying on anybody else's experiences with you. I allowed you to inform what I thought about you. And I liked what I saw. And what's Nathaniel's response to this? To being seen for who he is, without the baggage of any stereotypes, without the baggage of any cliches? Rabbi, you're the Son of God. You're my King. Nathaniel's mind is blown. It's amazing what happens when you make it clear to someone that you meet that in your mind they are a blank canvas. That in your mind they have a totally clean slate. That to your eyes there is no baggage. You're not coming with any negative expectations. Allowing someone to reveal who they are for themselves without presumption, without presupposition, without any preconceived ideas, yields wonderful results. I believe that Jesus is calling each one of us, all of us, to fight our urges and our impulses to rely on conscious and unconscious biases when we meet people. Jesus is calling us to have the courage to allow each individual that we meet to define themselves. Jesus said to Nathaniel, if you think this was a big deal, you ain't seen nothing yet. You will see greater things than this. And so Nathaniel, he accepts the invitation that Jesus extends to him, and he joins Philip and he becomes one of the 12 disciples. And Jesus actually revisits this promise later in the Gospel of John. This promise that he said to him, if you think this is great, you're going to see greater things than this. Jesus revisits this promise in the Gospel of John in chapter 14. And this is just hours before his crucifixion. And so Jesus is addressing Philip, Nathaniel's boy, and Nathaniel is there. And Jesus says, to paraphrase him, he says, you won't just see greater things than this. You will do greater things than this. Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father and we will be satisfied. Jesus said to him, have I been with you all this time, Philip, and you still do not know me? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own, but the Father who dwells in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. But if you do not, then believe me because of the works themselves. Very truly I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. So Philip says to Jesus, can you show us God the Father? And Jesus says, if you've seen me, you have seen the Father. You see, when Nathanael first saw me, he looked at me and saw me with the whole village of Nazareth on my back, and that was the wrong call. I just want you to see each other for who you are, without all of the baggage. But as for me, I do actually represent some others. There are some people that I do actually carry on my back, and I want you to see them when you see me. They are God the Father and God the Spirit. You see, there are three of us, and when you see one, it's okay to actually merge everything that you know about the others. But truly, I tell you, you being the singular, not the plural, that the Greek original text says this, it's a singular. Truly, I tell you, you as a singular, you as a distinct person, you as an individual, you, that if you believe in me, I will equip and empower you to do bigger and better things than you could ever imagine. And if your family doesn't believe, that's fine, because that has no bearing on how I see you. If your community doesn't believe, that's fine. That has no bearing on how I will relate to you. If your entire race doesn't believe, that's totally cool. It still won't interfere with how I will be with you, because nobody else's baggage will interfere with our relationship, because I just see you. Nobody else's reputation on your back. No baggage. Just you. This is how Jesus is calling us to look at one another. And let me be honest with you, what he's asking us to do isn't easy. Believing stereotypes is easy. Making sweeping judgments is easy. But seeing every person that you encounter as a blank canvas is not easy. Forming an opinion for yourself based on a person's individual merit rather than what somebody else has to say about them isn't easy. Consciously overriding our unconscious biases isn't easy. It takes energy. It takes time. It takes thoughtfulness. It takes investment. It takes commitment. When we think about this promise that Jesus made to us through Philip, but he was making it to us, this promise that we would do greater things than he did. I think when we hear this promise and hear Jesus promising us that we will do greater things than he did, our minds will tend to drift to like the show-stopping miracles, the amazing things he did. Our minds will tend to drift to things like the feeding of the 5,000, the healing of the sick, bringing the dead back to life. But what if Jesus was talking about something as seemingly simple, but as fiendishly difficult as seeing a man and not making a single assumption based on the colour of his skin? What if that was one of the great things that Jesus was talking about and promising to equip us to be able to do? Very truly, I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, in setting aside all biases, in erasing all low expectations, in overlooking all baggage, in putting aside all presumption, and in fact will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father, and I will do whatever you ask in my name.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've made. Every burning star, a signal fire of praise. If creation sings your praises, so will I. So will I. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty your voice. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 million creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature, so will I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your grace. If creation still obeys you, so will I. 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 If the stars were made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind blows where you send me, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the song of all our praise is still to shine, then we'll sing again 100 billion God of creation, you chase down my heart through all of my failure and pride.
thanks so much, Pastor Matthew, for your message and your time this week in sharing with us. Before we close church this week, I really want to give you the opportunity to give back. And, you know, really beautiful time to sit and think about what it is that you have in your hands this week to give back, whether that's in prayer, maybe that's in helping someone, helping your neighbour who you know needs something, or maybe that's a financial thing. So on the screen you're going to see our bank details, and we invite you to give if you feel called to do so. And you can actually enter in something in the description that says offering or hardship. So we have a hardship fund for those in need, and we encourage you to give to that if that's something you feel called to, or you can type in offering there. And straight after this, we have our weekly Zoom hangout. So we encourage you to jump online onto Zoom. It's not scary. A lot of us just sit and chit chat about life. So the code is 255-255-2001, and you'll need a password. So make sure you message the LondonLive page on Instagram, Facebook, whatever channel works, and we will send you that password to jump online, and we can have the community aspect of church. We're really grateful that you joined us this week, and I pray for blessings going into next week.